What if I told you that emotional intelligence could either make you a master of the world, or turn you into a monster who destroys everything around you from within? It sounds extreme, doesn't it? But that's the dark truth about emotional intelligence. The power to manipulate, control, and influence isn't just for the good-hearted. In fact, the more you understand emotions, both yours and others, the more dangerous you become. And the most dangerous men throughout history have known this better than anyone. Men like Niccolo Machiavelli. Machiavelli didn't view emotional intelligence as some soft, feel-good trait. It was a weapon, a tool, a means to gain power and maintain control. But wielding it recklessly comes with consequences. It can make you a king, or it can make you a tyrant. In the next few minutes, you're going to learn 7 ruthless lessons that will force you to look at emotional intelligence through a radically different lens. These lessons will either make you a master of yourself and your environment, or, if you're not careful, they'll transform you into a monster. But here's the catch. Only a few men will ever truly grasp this level of power. Will you be one of them? Let's dive in. Emotional intelligence is often seen as a simple, almost idyllic concept. It's the ability to empathize, to connect with others, to read a room, and to avoid conflict. It's about understanding feelings, both your own and those of the people around you. In popular culture, emotional intelligence is painted as the golden key to building strong relationships, making meaningful connections, and becoming a better leader. We're told that if you can just feel the right way, you can avoid misunderstandings, de-escalate tense situations, and build trust. But there's a dark side to this narrative, one that few want to acknowledge. The truth is, emotional intelligence, in the hands of an unwise or manipulative person, is not just a tool for connection. It's a weapon for control. This is where Machiavelli's philosophy comes crashing into the modern understanding of emotional intelligence. Machiavelli didn't talk about empathy or avoiding conflict. He saw emotions as raw tools to be manipulated. For him, the game was all about power, and emotional intelligence was the means to get it. He recognized that human emotions, if understood deeply enough, could be exploited, whether to seduce, intimidate, or influence others. In contrast to today's feel-good version of emotional intelligence, Machiavelli's perspective was ruthless and pragmatic. He didn't ask, "How can I make everyone happy?" He asked, "How can I control the emotions of others to secure my position?" So, let's challenge this naive view. Can emotional intelligence really be trusted in a world where people use it for their own gain? Can you afford to believe that others are playing the same game by the same rules? The truth is, in a world of manipulation and power struggles, emotional intelligence may not just be a tool, it could be the weapon that makes or breaks you. Machiavelli's true vision of emotional intelligence goes far beyond conventional understanding of empathy and conflict avoidance. For him, emotional intelligence wasn't about feeling good or simply connecting with others. It was about understanding the mechanics of human nature. It was about recognizing the weaknesses, desires, and fears that govern people's actions, and using that knowledge to your advantage. At its core, Machiavellian emotional intelligence is about self-control, understanding your own emotions, mastering them, and using that control to make powerful, calculated decisions. Only when you control your own impulses, your own desires, and your own reactions can you start to manipulate the external world with any degree of mastery. If you can't control your own emotions, how can you expect to control anyone else's? This kind of emotional intelligence is rooted in the understanding that human beings are driven by deep, often unconscious motivations. Fear of loss, desire for status, the need for validation. These are the engines that drive behavior. Recognizing these motivations in yourself and others is the first step to using emotional intelligence as a tool for power. Take the example of a leader like Napoleon Bonaparte. His rise to power wasn't merely a result of military genius. It was his profound understanding of human nature that allowed him to command loyalty, fear, and admiration from those around him. Napoleon wasn't just a brilliant strategist. He knew how to manipulate the emotions of his troops, his allies, and his enemies. He played on their ambitions, fears, and desires, to achieve his goals. In the modern world, think of CEOs like Steve Jobs. Jobs wasn't just a visionary. He understood how to tap into the emotional core of his employees and customers. He knew that his products weren't just about utility, but about status, identity, and emotion. He used this deep understanding of human psychology to build an empire. These men weren't just managing emotions, they were mastering them. They understood that emotional intelligence, when applied with discipline and strategy, could elevate them to unimaginable heights. And that's the difference. Emotional intelligence isn't about feeling better or being liked. It's about using it to shape the world to your will. Here's the ruthless truth that most will never admit. Emotional intelligence isn't about kindness, empathy, or building harmonious relationships. It's about understanding how to use emotions as tools for manipulation, influence, and power. At its core, emotional intelligence is a weapon. And when you realize this, you see the world through a much darker, more calculated lens. Machiavelli's insights go deeper than we care to acknowledge. The true power of emotional intelligence lies in its ability to control, bend, and shape others to your will. You see, Machiavelli didn't believe in the naive notion of leading with the heart or treating others as you'd like to be treated. That kind of thinking, he would argue, makes you vulnerable. The world doesn't reward the kind-hearted or the emotionally naive. It rewards the shrewd, the cunning, and the decisive. Emotional intelligence, when used with Machiavellian intent, can turn a mere follower into a kingmaker. Let's look at an example. Imagine two men. One is kind, honest, and emotionally transparent. He listens to others' problems, shows empathy, and works hard to maintain the peace in his relationships. But this man, despite his virtues, is constantly manipulated. His kindness is mistaken for weakness, his emotional transparency for naivety. People exploit his emotional understanding for their own gain, and his power is diluted. Now contrast that with a man who wields emotional intelligence as a weapon. This man understands human nature on a deeper level. He recognizes when someone's afraid, when they're desperate for approval, when they're secretly envious. He doesn't just listen, he manipulates the emotional environment. When dealing with others, he knows when to flatter, when to provoke, and when to withhold. He knows when to play on someone's insecurities or appeal to their deepest desires. He doesn't just form relationships, he strategizes them, crafting each interaction to serve his greater goals. Take, for example, the story of the Roman emperor, Augustus. He wasn't just a master of political maneuvering. He understood the emotional currents of his time. He manipulated the fears and desires of the Roman Senate, his enemies, and even the people. Augustus knew exactly how to play his allies and foes against each other. He used emotional cues to portray himself as the compassionate leader, while simultaneously consolidating power and eliminating threats with calculated precision. His rise wasn't a mere accident, it was the result of a deep understanding of human emotion and how to exploit it for political dominance. But what happens when emotional intelligence is misused? When you start to weaponize it without discipline, it can backfire. Think of a man who becomes so consumed with using emotions to control others that he loses touch with himself. His manipulation becomes transparent. His emotional games backfire. He alienates allies and earns the distrust of others. The very tool that once elevated him becomes his downfall, turning him into a paranoid, lonely figure, consumed by power, yet incapable of maintaining meaningful relationships. The key difference between the man who rises and the man who falls is self-control. A master of emotional intelligence uses it as a tool, not a crutch. He wields it with precision, not recklessness. And crucially, he understands that to control others, you must first control yourself. If you can master your own emotions and desires, you can start to shape the world around you, bend it to your will without ever appearing to force it. Emotional intelligence is powerful, but wielded without wisdom, it can destroy you just as easily as it empowers you. So the question remains, will you use it to conquer, or will it conquer you? Machiavelli's teachings are not relics of the past. They are just as relevant in today's world as they were in Renaissance Italy. The principles of emotional intelligence that he championed have been adapted, weaponized, and applied in the most powerful arenas of modern society: the dating world, the business landscape, and leadership circles. And the consequences of either, mastering or ignoring these principles, are just as stark now as they were back then. In the dating world, emotional intelligence is one of the most potent tools at a man's disposal. Consider the world of online dating and social media. Modern pickup artists, PUAs, and dating coaches often tout emotional intelligence as their secret weapon for attracting and influencing women. These men don't rely on brute force or mere looks. They understand the psychology of desire, insecurity, and validation. By reading subtle emotional cues and manipulating conversations to feed into a woman's needs or fears, they can control the interaction. This is Machiavellian emotional intelligence in action. It's not about being nice or genuine, as society often teaches. It's about playing to emotional vulnerabilities to get what you want. The same can be seen in the business world. Take a CEO like Elon Musk. While many admire Musk for his innovation and bold vision, his emotional intelligence is equally a key factor in his success. Musk understands the power of emotional influence, not just with his employees, but with the public. He knows how to manipulate perceptions, create a sense of urgency, and make people feel invested in his projects. Whether it's the way he engages with his followers on Twitter, or his ability to rally investors to fund his ventures, Musk taps into the emotional currents of those around him to achieve his goals. He doesn't rely on mere logic. He uses the power of emotional manipulation to create belief, excitement, and loyalty. On the flip side, men who lack this awareness can easily fall into emotional traps. They may find themselves the target of emotional blackmail, either in personal relationships or business. In the dating world, a lack of emotional intelligence can lead to false intimacy, where a woman may use emotional manipulation to control or exploit a man's affections. In business, it can lead to exploitation either by unscrupulous colleagues or by an employer who knows how to pull the right emotional strings to get more out of them for less. However, emotional intelligence, when applied for personal growth and authentic connection, can lead to powerful, mutually beneficial relationships. Men who use their emotional intelligence to truly understand themselves and others can foster genuine bonds, inspire loyalty, and lead with integrity. They understand how to build trust, navigate conflict, and motivate others without resorting to manipulation or deceit. This is the higher path, one that balances power with empathy, control with respect. The key distinction lies in awareness and intent. Are you using emotional intelligence to manipulate and control? Or are you leveraging it to build a life of genuine power and meaningful relationships? The danger with emotional intelligence is that, in the wrong hands, it becomes a trap. Most men never realize they're walking right into it. They think they're gaining power, when in reality, they're becoming slaves to their own manipulation. Emotional intelligence, when misunderstood or misused, has a way of hijacking your psyche, turning what could be a powerful tool for growth and connection into a weapon that breeds toxic relationships and personal isolation. Many men fall into the trap by mistaking kindness for emotional mastery. They think that by being nice, by appearing understanding and empathetic, they're playing the game of emotional intelligence. But here's the catch. Kindness, when used as a facade, is a form of manipulation in itself. It's a mask to hide ego, vanity, or insecurity. A man who is constantly kind, constantly agreeable, may seem emotionally intelligent, but in reality, he's only using kindness to gain approval, to avoid conflict, or to get something in return. He isn't truly engaging with others on a deeper level. He's merely trying to control their perceptions of him. In the business world, this is where men often get lost. They use emotional intelligence to manipulate their way up the corporate ladder, smoothing over conflicts, playing the part of the charismatic leader, pretending to care when all they really want is power or a promotion. But eventually, this approach backfires. People see through the facade, and the manipulator ends up isolated, resented by colleagues and subordinates. The trap here is the belief that you're in control, when in fact, you've let your fear of rejection, your desire for validation, or your ego drive every decision. The real danger comes when emotional intelligence becomes tangled with your own vanity or sense of superiority. You start to think that understanding others' emotions means you can control them. You use emotional cues to make people like you, manipulate them into compliance, or emotionally blackmail them when things go wrong. Over time, you may become successful, but hollow. You may win battles, but you'll lose the respect and trust of those around you. Here's the brutal truth. Men who wield emotional intelligence recklessly become monsters, powerful, yes, but soulless. They may rise to the top, but they do so by creating toxic environments where manipulation and emotional games are the norm. They think they're in control, but they're slaves to their own need for power. They lack self-awareness, unable to see that the very tools they're using to control others are slowly destroying themselves. This is the trap. Thinking that emotional intelligence is about manipulating others to your advantage, without realizing that you've lost control of yourself in the process. The irony is, by trying to control others, you're the one who ends up being controlled. Now that we've explored the darker side of emotional intelligence, let's focus on how to harness it for personal empowerment and self-mastery. The true power of emotional intelligence doesn't lie in manipulation or control. It lies in discipline, awareness, and purpose. If you want to rise above the crowd, to gain the kind of power that's sustainable and impactful, you need to master your own emotions first. Only then can you make smarter decisions, build authentic relationships, and elevate your status without resorting to the toxic traps of manipulation. At the heart of Machiavellian emotional intelligence is a critical element: self-awareness. If you can't accurately assess your own emotions, why you feel what you feel, what triggers your anger, fear, or desire, then you're already at a disadvantage. Self-awareness gives you control over your reactions, preventing you from acting impulsively. This means taking a step back in high-pressure situations and asking, what am I really feeling right now? What does this situation reveal about my deeper desires and fears? Once you identify these emotional triggers, you can master them, using them for clarity instead of allowing them to cloud your judgment. The next critical principle is delayed gratification, a skill that separates the emotionally intelligent from the emotionally impulsive. Machiavelli recognized that power isn't about immediate gain. It's about long-term strategy. He didn't advise rulers to act rashly or to seek short-term victories. Instead, he recommended waiting for the right moment to act, when the conditions are ideal and the rewards are greater. Men who can delay their impulses for immediate satisfaction, whether it's indulging in a temporary pleasure or seeking instant approval, are the ones who can stay focused on their ultimate goals. This skill allows you to make calculated decisions that are rooted in a deeper sense of purpose, not just fleeting emotions. And that's where purpose comes into play. Emotional intelligence is useless without a higher purpose. Machiavelli wasn't simply interested in amassing power for its own sake. He was interested in gaining power to achieve meaningful goals. Similarly, if you want to harness emotional intelligence for personal growth, you need to have a vision, a reason for why you're building relationships, why you're cultivating influence. Without purpose, emotional intelligence becomes a tool for ego and manipulation. With purpose, it becomes a tool for authentic self-improvement and real power. Now, let's connect this to practical, everyday actions. Making smarter decisions starts with emotional control. Think about a time you were in a heated argument, or a moment when you were tempted to react impulsively. The emotionally intelligent man doesn't lash out. He pauses, reflects, and then responds with calculated precision. He understands that his emotions can either cloud his judgment or guide him toward better outcomes, depending on how he chooses to respond. Building genuine relationships requires emotional intelligence, but not in the way most people think. It's not about being a people pleaser or constantly trying to make others like you. It's about listening deeply, understanding the emotional currents at play in any interaction, and responding authentically. When you master your emotions, you can engage with others in a way that is both honest and strategic. You become someone others trust, not because you manipulate them, but because you offer clarity, stability, and vision. Finally, elevating your social status isn't about playing games. It's about becoming a leader of your own life. Leaders are not defined by their titles, but by their ability to influence and inspire others. To rise, you need emotional control, especially in moments of tension or conflict. When everyone else is reactive, the emotionally intelligent person remains composed, choosing when and how to act. This kind of poise and authenticity builds respect and admiration, creating a natural momentum that elevates your social standing. In the end, true power isn't about emotional manipulation. It's about emotional mastery. The men who rise above the noise, who command influence, and who create genuine impact are those who have aligned their emotions with their purpose. They know when to act, when to wait, and most importantly, they know who they are. So take control of your emotions. Don't let them control you, and use them to build the life and power you deserve. As we've seen throughout this journey, emotional intelligence is not just about empathy or understanding others. It's about control. The power to read people's emotions, to influence them, and to harness your own emotions as a strategic tool can elevate you to incredible heights of success. But as Machiavelli warned, it can just as easily turn you into a manipulative monster if wielded without awareness or discipline. When used recklessly, emotional intelligence becomes a tool of manipulation. It can hijack your actions, turning your kindness into a facade, your understanding into a game, and your relationships into power plays. And once you lose control of your emotions, you'll quickly find that you're no longer in charge of your destiny. Instead, you become a puppet to your own unchecked desires. So the question is, are you prepared to control your emotions and master your fate? Or will you let your emotions control you and lead you down a path of destruction? This isn't just about becoming more powerful. This is about becoming more aware. It's about consciously applying what you've learned to create better outcomes in your relationships, your career, and your life. Most men will never learn the truths we've discussed here. They'll remain slaves to their own emotional impulses, never realizing the full extent of their power. Will you? Will you rise above, mastering your emotions and shaping your future with calculated, purposeful action? The choice is yours. Step into your power today